Well, of course, that primary is less than a week away. It is coming up this Tuesday, and I believe it is noon to 9. Right? I'm pretty sure that's going to be the hours of the primary. Okay, so this whole deal went down with Iran, and then we hear a story recently that an agreement has been signed that Boeing is now put together a deal with Iran, and it just seems odd to even hear. Jessica Golloher on the line right now from Fox News. What do we? It is odd to hear that this is what we're doing. An American company like this selling something like that. What do we know?
We know that it's a multi-billion-dollar deal, and Boeing essentially is going to sell some of its aircraft to the Islamic Republic, Iran Air specifically, which is the state-run airline. It's the first agreement with Iran and the United States, clearly, since the landmark nuclear deal we had implemented earlier this year. And we're not getting a lot of information out of Iran about it. They have yet to comment. But we understand that Boeing had to go through the U.S. Treasury to get the deal okayed, because after the landmark nuclear deal with Tehran and Six World Powers over its nuclear program, there are so many steps that are in place to make sure Iran is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So Boeing had to go through and make sure that Iran is actually doing what it's supposed to do, and they did this by going through the Treasury. So the Treasury has okayed the deal. We really don't have that much more information, and of course it's a surprise to a lot of people.
Yeah, it is, and I wonder how, I know how our reaction, you hear murmurs, it's not the big thing on everybody's mind, but at the same time, there's a bit of discomfort, I think, when you hear that. I do wonder, the clerics in Iran, the hardline, the conservative religious sector of Iran just hates America. I wonder how they feel about a deal like this.
That's a good question. I think we have to remember, though, that there are the hardliners in Tehran, but recently there were parliamentary elections. And there is now a more moderate voice in the country, which I think a lot of people forget about it. Of course, we hear from the Ayatollah, who has the supreme say over everything, and it's religious-based, what comes from him. Yeah. And the hardliners are death against America, et cetera, et cetera. But the average Iranian isn't necessarily like that. They're very Western-leaning. A lot of them speak excellent English. And now there is a more moderate voice in the government. And even the president had come out to say, hey, we have this opportunity now that this landmark deal has been signed. You either take advantage of it or you don't. And so he's very Western-leaning. And, the changes in Parliament are not whiz-bang, oh, my Lord, everything's changing. But even small incremental change is happening there.
Good stuff. Jessica Golloher, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And I got to tell you, I have bad news for Christine this morning also. Really terrible news. Uh-oh. Christine, it's going to... I'm trying to come up with as many stories as I can to really dissuade Christine from thinking about moving, of all places, moving to Mississippi. A story came out just yesterday, and that Minnesota is the most kid-friendly state to raise a family.
So I should move to Minnesota?
For the second year in a row. New York is actually high up on the list as well.
And?
We pay more money for education per student than any other state in the union. Mm-hmm. Mississippi's dead last. Yeah.
Is it really?
It's not just Mississippi. There's another state, New Mexico. Parents, it says, and I'm quoting the story, Christine, parents in Mississippi and New Mexico, however, might find reason for concern as those states are among the lowest. The foundation's Kids Count Data Center tracks data in all 50 states to gauge the well-being of children across the nation, focusing on factors that affect the way children grow up. They use a carefully developed methodology to tally each state's composite score in 4 main categories: economics, health conditions, education, and the quality of communities. The Northeast region took most of the top billing overall, including us here in New York. The poorest states, mostly in the South, according to the study, consistently scored the worst. So do you want to know, is it New Mexico or Mississippi that's dead last?
You're going to tell me it's Mississippi.
It is Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Number 50 of the 50 states in the union, Mexico checks in. Wow. Mississippi checks in.
How ironic that I'm moving there for my children.
Number 50, right. I just found that to be interesting.
This was the lowest test scores or the least amount spent per child?
It is a whole bunch of criteria.
Thanks, Manasky, for chiming in there.
It includes,
I'm just clarifying.
It includes economic and health conditions. It includes education and quality of communities.
Well,
all the stuff all the stuff that really worries you about kids. Hey, listen, you'll, I'm sure, put your kids in the upper 1%. Just because of your parenting skills alone. However, overall, it's a little rough. The data center considers children to be in poverty if they're under 18 and their family's annual income falls below the U.S. Census Bureau poverty line that's set just under $24,000. The national average leveled at 22% of kids in 2014, according to the study. Interestingly, in Utica, right, our poverty level is at about a quarter of, it's like 20, almost 25%.
So, and that is exactly what I was going to say. So, as I will be the ambassador for Utica in Mississippi, I almost said Mexico, in Mississippi, I will be the ambassador for Mississippi while I am here. We will improve things there.
Do you want to hear a few stats? 10% of Mississippi teens aren't in school and are not working. Yeah. Which is more than double the Minnesota rate, and a third of Mississippi high schoolers don't graduate on time. 23% of fourth graders are considered proficient at reading, which is 12% below the national average. Nationally, 6% of children lacked health insurance in 2014, which is 40%, an improvement of 40% since 2008. You would have thought that Obamacare would have taken care of all of that, but I guess not. So, anyway, Christine's final day in studio is Friday morning, and I just don't want to do this. But I've had people calling and saying, can I stop by? Are we able to just stop by the studio? And I don't know. Let's break out the Honest John's hot dogs and say, yeah, just come on by and say goodbye to Christine. It's your last chance to see her. You will hear from her, though, next week, or not next week. I guess you will, because we'll do best of next week. But the following week, you'll be on into the month of July. From Mississippi. And
I may never leave because I just can't get finished packing. I felt so bad for the DPW people because I literally have like 6 boxes of recyclables and...
Don't worry, they were going through it all. They're taking it home. Christine has news coming up in a second. Hold tight. Coming right back. Free money question of the day we'll do right after the news. Give you your first chance at $350. And you know the trend. More people win in the 6 o'clock hour than any other hour during the morning. So let's see if that is something in your favor. Coming up on WIBX.